Okay, can anybody hear me?
I hear you, Bob.
God, okay, we're there.
It's 10:04.
We're having one glitch in regards to the Zoom meeting, and it should be cleared up here pretty quick, and we'll get the chair on.
Chris, it looks like you do a lot of traveling. You were in the Golden Gate Bridge the other day, and now it looks like you're in Hawaii.
That's right, Bob. I like virtual meetings.
I guess.
Jerry, you need to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. That's on me. A little glitch on my end. Apologize. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. It is past the 10 o'clock hour. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing districts for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular sessions. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. We're going to call this meeting to order. And Kylie, would you take roll, please?
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Here.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Here.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Here.
Chair Hemmingson?
And I am here. And now we're going to take a moment of reflection. And now, if you will all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
with liberty and justice for all. Okay, introduction of new employees. Do we have any?
No, not at this point.
Okay, seeing none, we have no reportable actions from closed session at this time, but we are going to reconvene in closed session at the conclusion of our open session meeting. Just let you know that. At
Chair,
this time,
public comment on closed session items?
oh, yes, and if there are any questions on closed session items, I will hear them now. I guess we don't have any. I don't have any way of seeing whether we do or not. Nothing, Jay or Kylie on your end?
There are no one's asking to comment.
No.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Appreciate that.
Click on attendees, Jay. So I can see the public. Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would request any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the order, in order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Are there any such items? Okay, hearing none, we will now receive other brief reports or announcements relative to the County of Del Norte programs and projects, progress of 2x2 committees and goal committees. Bob, Supervisor Berkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, let me tell you, we live in amazing times. I've received dozens of phone calls asking hundreds of questions about COVID-19, such as why are all the restaurants closed? Will I be arrested if I'm caught outside without a face mask? Can I go outside to walk my dog? I'll tell you, just unbelievable numbers of questions. It goes on and on. In other news, there were 2 meetings of the Redwood Coast Transit Authority. The first was held on March 27th, where we adopted a resolution updating RCTA's Americans with Disabilities Act plan. And we also approved the service reduction plan with possible reduced driver availability during the COVID-19 pandemic. During the second meeting on April 8th, we received an update on ridership during the pandemic, and we approved a short-term pay increase for hourly employees during the pandemic. I also attended the town hall meeting concerning the many questions concerning ordinary citizens had about COVID-19. And this was hosted by video conference from Senator McGuire, and that was via Zoom. And that's my report, Mr.
Thank you. Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Start with state parks first. We've had a lot of concern about the closure of state parks around the county. This is a soft closure according to state parks, and we received word on this several weeks ago. In turn, I've had several conversations with Brett Silver, who's our local ranger, and Victor Balachek, who's our district ranger, about some of these soft closures, and more importantly, the reaction by parks to permanently gate some of these facilities. I have a great deal of concern about this because the permanent gates, once they go up, I think it sends a pretty poor message to this community. And as we're pretty much all aware, we've pretty much curtailed this movement of transients into our community. So our community needs to be able to use these areas. And what is currently happening is that we're forcing people to congregate instead of disperse in a lot of the trailheads in the state park. And I'm concerned with this. I would like to move forward with a game plan with the board's permission as soon as possible and possibly place it on our next agenda where we could propose a plan with state parks that would allow some local control over access of our constituents to those areas that they need to order to recreate and basically get out and not feel as heavy of an impact because of our community's difference and not necessarily similarity with some of these bigger urban areas. And it's definitely not a one size fits all state, and we could definitely do that up here. So I would like to advocate that here in the near future and work with the chairman to get that on our next agenda. Had several discussions with the California Department of Transportation. That still has not ended. Moving forward with Highway 199, 197 discussions and how best to proceed with current litigation as it stands. 197, 199, as everybody's aware, has been in litigation with three organizations, EPIC, Friends of Del Norte, and Center for Biological Diversity, going on close to 11 years now. We need to find common ground to come to forward on some of these issues. And unless we do so, we're going to be in court where this issue could go either way. And we might not be able to fix these major areas like the Narrows that have caused so much problem for our community. In addition, the conversations around Highway 199 at Elk Valley Crossroad and Elk Valley Crossroad at Highway 101 of our great concern. We have now received analysis back from our consultant that we've contracted with the local transportation commission that shows some of these intersections, more specifically, Elk Valley Crossroad at Highway 199 has an accident rate that is 8 times higher than the state average. This is far different than Caltrans reports. We have met with them to discuss our analysis and, more importantly, some of the fixes that we foresee here in the future to help alleviate that problem that also causes mortality in our community, but more importantly, loss of property. I have been helping a lot of constituents and become very familiar with programs that have come down through legislation with the COVID legislation, specifically the last round of legislation, which is called 3.0, around the small business administration programs, helping out a lot of farmers in our community apply for these programs, specifically the paycheck relief program and the disaster relief programs, in order to keep their businesses moving forward in this time of need. I've also spent a great deal of time around a recent effort by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to propose emergency closures to all sports fishing throughout the state, and how that reaction by constituents in our state has been received, and it's been quite alarming. The conference call that was supposed to happen last week with this closure was derailed completely because their system couldn't handle the over 500 phone calls for that conference, plus the 300 webinar call-ins just for people that wanted to voice their opinion specific to the sports fishing closure. I've had lengthy conversations with Jackie Hostler, who's on the commission, Eric Scalar, who's the current chairman of the commission, Chuck Bonham, who's the director of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Stafford Laird on these issues. And they've assured me that this is going to be a very surgical approach. Tomorrow, this item will be back on the agenda for the Fish and Game Commission. I plan on attending via conference and expressing some of the concerns that I've heard from constituents here locally. As Supervisor Berkowitz mentioned, also participated in Senator McGuire's town hall. That was very well done, and also have discussed great length with CEO of Contour Airlines, Matt Chafis, some of his concerns with the upcoming contract period, and I know we have that on our agenda today. Attended the emergency board meeting, attended a tri-agency meeting, and also several digital conferences hosted by the California State Association of Counties, specific to the disaster relief, and then also what the state is doing in response to COVID-19. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Howard. Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, the COVID-19 virus continues to dominate the news and alter our behavior. The state has released its numbers, and I'll kind of just update you. It's a changing figure, but as of late Monday, last night, there were about 22,000 cases around the state, resulting in 670 deaths. Around the country, there's about 600,000 cases, 23,000 plus deaths. So in Del Norte County, Public Health Officer Warren Raywalt reports that 176 individuals have been tested for the COVID-19 virus. Of that total, 2 tests are still pending. 172 are negative, and Del Norte County continues to remain with 2 cases and 0 deaths. Those cases have remained intact for now into its 3rd week. That's very encouraging news. I want to report to you what's going on at Pelican Bay State Prison. There are 0 incarcerated and 0 staff infected with the virus. Pelican Bay State Prison has switched its product protocol through its Prison Industries Authority to now making masks and sanitizer. They're producing about 800 to 1,000 medical masks per day for local distribution and throughout the PIA's authority. In doing this, they're obviously mitigating any factors where anyone is going to get infected, and they're taking incredible gestures and incredible movement in making sure that the area remains COVID-19 free. Pelican Bay also welcomed 18 new correctional officers who all been screened for the virus. Inmates who have recently arrived at Pelican Bay have been quarantined for at least 14 days. On-site visitation has stopped, but incarcerated have been given additional phone access. Everyone who enters Pelican Bay State Prison must be medically screened and body temperatures taken. I'd like to take this opportunity to commend Warden James Robertson and his staff for exemplary work in keeping Pelican Bay State Prison COVID-19 free. Across the 35 institution system, as of last night, there are currently 55 inmates out of approximately 130,000 incarcerated by the states and 75 staff who have the virus. Our Redwood Coast Transit Authority also met last week via Zoom, as Supervisor Berkowitz mentioned. The authority handled some COVID business by authorizing Palm Industries to sanitize its vehicles. Our authority also voted to continue the Route 20 service, which provides service to Arcata and is an important service for recently paroled inmates from Pelican Bay. And the authority is upping its hourly wages by $2 per hour through June 30th. Recently, there have been 3 driver resignations. So if any of you folks out there are looking for work, there are currently openings for drivers at Redwood Coast Transit with a nice raise for the drivers. Local Transportation Commission met via Zoom and handled some routine consent agenda items, including the Washington Boulevard culvert replacement and the Regional Surface Transportation Program. Our board also met in special session authorizing the use of local motels to house COVID-19 infected. And again, as of the late last night, this morning, the state has announced it's going to be relaxing some restrictions in association with the state of Oregon and Washington. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge all you folks out there who are making these sacrifices to keep our county COVID-19 free. However, the discussion to loosen some of their guidelines and restrictions, frankly, must be conducted immediately. Not unlike the other 57 counties in California and the state itself, including our own country, our economy is evaporating. Though I do not underscore the seriousness of the COVID-19 novel coronavirus, the continued self-embargo is unsustainable. And that fact cannot be underscored. So ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching the line where the cure may be worse than the COVID virus. Lives are being changed forever, and our country and our county is we've experienced pandemics before. 57 million were stricken with the swine flu in 2009 and 10, resulting in 12,000 Americans who perished. The country was not shut down in 2010 as a result of this. The H1N1 flu hospitalized almost 1 million people in 2017, 2018, and killed 61,000 Americans. The United States was not shut down for that, and certainly not to diminish the serious nature of approximately 23,000 Americans have passed away as a direct result of the novel coronavirus of 2020. Continued stay-at-home directives are causing a great deal of pain and pressure on our community, and as we will soon experience the unintended consequences of this long-term restrictive behavior. It's unrealistic to expect many businesses to return to normal, whatever that word normal may mean at this time, or even to reopen at all. It's unlikely that the taxpayer-funded relief packages that we are all awaiting will inflate, and which will inflate our already skyrocketing national debt. Those dollars will come from government above Del Norte County and will certainly not be sufficient to bring our community back to any semblance of vibrancy for the long-term picture. The next few weeks will be critical for both the short and long-term survival of Del Norte County, not from the effects of the novel virus, which to date again have claimed 0 lives in Del Norte County, but the real harm may come from the government itself as it continues to hold firm on the current course. Indeed, difficult decisions must be made in short order. I hope you will all join me in wishing wisdom and deliverance to our elected local, state, and national elected. That's my report.
Supervisor Cowan.
Thank you, Chairman. As you all know, we've had a couple special Board of Supervisors meeting in the last few weeks, which I've attended. I also attended Senator McGuire's town hall. We had a Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting where we're discussing the upcoming contract for our service here into Del Norte County. Had a local behavioral health meeting discussing the practices that are happening now amongst the COVID-19 crisis and pandemic. Discussions around dialysis and things that are changing at the hospital. I've had actually a couple of different conversations with the hospital regarding different things during this pandemic. Had meetings with and conversations, a few of them with Dana Gilport over at Methodist Church. She's the one who's always done the showers for the homeless in the past. And now that the churches are closed down, had been the past 3 weeks trying to work with the county and the city to use the pool. Unfortunately, that did not work out. So the county has gone a different direction and will be using hotels to do showers and continuing being able to make sure that our homeless are being showered during this pandemic. I, as Supervisor Berkowitz pointed out, have many, many calls daily regarding procedures with the shelter in place around vacation rentals, around usage of the river and the beaches, around masks, all that thing, that all those different things that I'm sure we're all getting the calls on. So I agree with Supervisor Howard. We are different, and following the state on this doesn't seem wise, or doesn't seem like it works for us. I think we should have that conversation about what works for our community. Also just been working with one of our local constituents and retired teacher who's been making a lot of masks and helping me get masks over to DHHS, our social workers, and masks made for the homeless, as well as our all our people who are helping the different homeless in our community. This is a hard time for us. I agree with what everybody has said. It's definitely different. But to hear Supervisor Gitlin talk about the large numbers of people that perished in other pandemics, and to hear the small amount, even though it isn't small, but small comparatively, it shows that what we are doing is working. And that's what makes me be okay with what we're doing. It's, you know, I'm trying to look at all the positive things that are coming out of it. Anyways, I won't even go into all that, but yeah, we need to do what we need to do to take care of the health and safety of our community. And it is a little inconvenient to some, but I hope that everybody looks at all the positives. And you hear a lot about the nature coming back. And boy, did I see that yesterday with the Aleutian geese out there. I've never seen so many in our community over the past few years. So that's my report, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Cowan. Appreciate that. Yeah, I wasn't any less business just because we have virtually gone virtual, but I still had a number of meetings and certainly a lot of calls on the COVID-19 issue, but I did have a couple of whale working group risk assessment meetings where the risk of entangling whales was still deemed to be low, at a low level. And the last meeting, or the meeting that we had previous to the last one, no triggers were set off to take any management actions, and we requested the same of the director, but we don't know what he's come up with yet, but that will be coming out shortly. I did a couple of, I guess 2 or 3 public updates, Facebook Live, YouTube, along with Mayor Inscore and Dr. Raywalt. And some of them included our CAO, the police chief, the sheriff, Superintendent Harris, and Eric Weir from the city. I did have also had a meeting with the sheriff on some personnel issues, and we'll be moving on with that. The special sessions that we had for the Board of Supervisors, attended both of those. As was mentioned, the McGuire Town Hall meeting, very interesting. Nice to get a surrounding county perspective on all that. It was a very good, well done meeting. Had a Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting, as was mentioned by Supervisor Cowan, and hopefully we will approve a support letter for Contour Airlines to continue what they've been doing for air service to our community. Had a tri-agency meeting, had a North Coast Resource Partnership meeting, did a gender review. As was mentioned, we had a local transportation commission meeting. I also attended the Del Norte business webinar, which I found not to be extremely informative, but maybe the next one will have a little more information on it. I also would like to mention that I agree with Supervisor Howard and Cowan that it is a little different up here. We do have some things that we need to have consideration for with more local input, rather than looking at this as a one-size-fits-all type of issue with the COVID-19. And knock on wood, we don't get any more cases, and things have peaked. But you know, we want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So that's my report. We're going to move on now to public comment period. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you're addressing the board on matters that are on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. You will be limited to 3 minutes. Are there any public comments? Kylie, do you have any, before we take virtual public comments, do you have any written public comments that were submitted?
We do not have any written public comments, but you might want to remind the public to raise the hand to let us know they have a public comment if they're attending via Zoom.
Yeah, if you're attending via Zoom, just push the raise your hand button and you'll be acknowledged and allowed to speak. Is there anyone that would like to raise their hand? Anyone, Kylan? Okay, seeing no public comment, then we'll close the public comment period and move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda exists of items 1 through 13. And I would ask for public comments again on consent agenda items only. Anything, Kylie?
I'm not seeing any, but I know for the Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation, there should be a public comment from, her name is Liz. I see that she's on, but I'm not seeing her hand being raised. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so can I get a motion? To
Make
approve the
a motion
consent?
to, you looking for a motion to approve consent?
Yeah.
Right. I'm looking to
Yes.
pull item 13 for discussion.
Okay,
Chair,
yes, ma'am.
we do have a public comment
Okay,
for a closed session. Is she unmuted?
Yes, she is unmuted.
Liz, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Usually we talk after the proclamation. Am I?
yeah, and that's what I was going to recommend, Liz.
Okay.
If you would wait until I read the proclamation, then I would ask for comments. If you don't mind waiting, you're more than welcome to speak now. But if you'll wait until I read the proclamation and you want to speak to that, that would be great.
Yes, I'll wait.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Liz.
Okay, and we're going to pull item number 13 for a discussion after we approve the consent. Did you second Supervisor Howard with pulling the item number 13?
I made the motion to pull item number 13,
Okay,
or whatever you want to call it.
request, but you're seconding the motion that
Motion to
Supervisor,
approve consent agenda.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, motion to approve the consent agenda with pulling out item 13.
Okay,
Second.
so we have a motion and a second. I've already asked for public comment. Kylie, would you poll the vote?
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. So Supervisor Howard, let's go ahead and take up item number 13.
Very
Oh,
good.
hang on a second. I'm sorry. Let me read this proclamation first, and we'll move on with that, and then Liz can make her comments. So this is a proclamation on Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas sexualized violence affects children, youth, adults, and elders of all genders from all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds with public health and social justice implications for every person in Del Norte County. And whereas it is estimated that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 7 boys will be sexually victimized by age 18. And whereas sex trafficking and exploitation happens in our community, disproportionately impacting the lives of youth, young adults in our community. And whereas recent national headlines indicate increased accountability and awareness, we as a community are presented with the opportunity to build on that momentum and create positive change locally. And whereas the county seat of Del Norte, Crescent City, and North Coast Rape Crisis Team have partnered to provide expanded emergency services to citizens impacted by trafficking, sexual assault, and domestic violence benefiting all Del Norte County. And whereas staff and volunteers of North Coast Rape Crisis Team provide 24-hour services to our survivors and their significant others to support those impacted and ensure survivors are not re-victimized. And whereas promotion of the best practice responses is accomplished through multidisciplinary teams such as the Sexual Assault Response Team, as well as partnerships with governmental, tribal, and community-based organizations. And whereas the North Coast Rape Crisis Team provides prevention, education, self-defense, and awareness-raising programs, encouraging every person to participate in ending sexualized violence and promoting social justice. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Del Norte Board of Supervisors reaffirms its commitment to the North Coast Rape Crisis Team and its vision, a world without violence, and acknowledges April 2020 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month passed and adopted on this 14th day of April 2020. Okay, Liz, now is your opportunity if you would like to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. We would like to thank the supervisors for your continued support of Sexual Assault Awareness Month and the work of the North Coast Rape Crisis Team. Sexual abuse of children, teens, and adults of all genders continue to impact the lives of many of our community members. And together we can work towards the vision of the North Coast Rape Crisis Team, a world without violence. The North Coast Rape Crisis Team continues and will continue through this pandemic to provide free and confidential 24-hour a day, 7 days a week to anyone of any age or gender who has experienced or been affected by sexualized violence. We are here to listen, believe, offer options and support. In doing this, we partner with allies like law enforcement, the district attorney's office, victim witness, medical providers, and many other public, private, and tribal organizations to ensure respect for our survivors, community safety, and perpetrator accountability. In addition, we provide a wide range of primary prevention programs for children as young as preschool through elementary, junior and senior high, as well as college and parent and professional trainings. And of course, these programs are suspended at the moment, but we will continue them in the future. These programs promote our belief that violence is a choice, that every person deserves a violent-free life, and that no one deserves to be harmed. Sexual Assault Awareness Month provides an opportunity to raise awareness and build strong partnerships. We would like to remind everyone that International Jeans for Justice Day is April 29th. Jeans for Justice gives each of us the opportunity to stand with and for survivors, to let them know that what happened to them is not their fault, and to hold those who choose violence accountable for the choices they make. If you would like any additional information about Jeans for Justice, let me know. I can send Kylie an email with that information, or you can definitely give us a call, 465-6961. We can give you more information about that. Again, thank you for your support of the North Coast Rape Crisis Team and of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We look forward to the continued partnership and collaboration with our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. We appreciate everything you do. Okay, I don't know if I got froze up here or what's going on. Hello?
Chair, we can hear you just fine. We can see you just
Okay.
fine too.
All right, thanks. I thought my screen was blank for some reason. Okay, now we're going to move on to item number 13, Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a great deal of discussion around the future rental of this facility. And I know in previous discussions with the board and also discussions with staff that there has been a great deal of concern here. And so when I read over the lease extension, it doesn't necessarily address all the concerns that we've discussed in our meetings. And I want to be assured before the board approves this contract that we're addressing some of these issues and that we have assurance from staff that those issues are being addressed. I know the reasons varied for why Child Support Services wanted to move from this facility, but more importantly, to get to a smaller facility for their necessary capacities. But in the interim, I know there was some corrective actions being requested by staff, and I'm hoping those take place besides the single one that was mentioned here in this extension with the HVAC system. So I was hoping staff could address that before we took a vote.
So I see Nola is online. If she would address that, that would be good.
Thank you.
Good morning, board. This is Nola Penna from Child Support Services. I'm your acting director at this time. Which specific things would you like me to address?
Well, the HVA system is the only item being currently addressed on this agenda, but it's my understanding, having spoken with staff, that there was some maintenance issues within the facility itself that were lax on being taken care of. More importantly, as it concerns with rodent control, if I remember correctly, was one of the larger issues. Are those being addressed by the landlord currently?
Yes, that issue has been resolved. We're not having any problems at this time. The building has been sealed up, and hopefully when the fall comes and the rain comes again, we won't see any more rodents.
Very good. And all other items that were concerned to staff are now addressed appropriately by the landlord?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Supervisor
Nola,
Hemmington. Sorry.
Yeah, let me continue on with that while we got Lola on the horn now. You said that you think that all of those things are being taken care of. I know that there was an issue with a leaking roof that took and it seemed like an extraordinarily long time to get resolved, and as well with the rodent issue that Supervisor Howard brought up, and and I want there to be a comfort level for the employees that are working there. Have we reached that point?
Yes, I believe so. The rain died off early this spring. We haven't had any problems. We haven't seen any leaks in months. As we know, that can always come back. And we haven't seen any rodent issues for several months.
No, I'd like to ask you a question, and I appreciate Supervisor Howard making some observations. Were these issues addressed? I know about the rodent issue. Were they addressed in an expedient time frame when they were noted? And who paid for those repairs? Did the landlord pay for those repairs? And likewise with the roof, was there continually ongoing rain there that prevented the leaking of the roof? Or were these taken care of in what I would call a quick and fair manner to your satisfaction?
Well, I am concerned about the amount of time it took to get the roof repaired, but it has been repaired at this time. Both the first story and the second story has been repaired. We're not seeing any leaks. We haven't seen any leaks in months. I'm satisfied that we're good to stay here for another year. So,
well, the lease calls for 15 months, and I'm going to support that because there's no other option. But did you not discuss a lease that would have gone another 9 months? I think it was 24 months at a savings of $2,500 less than the current amount that you're going to be paying, which I believe is $8,500 a month. That would go down an additional $2,500 a month in a time frame when our county is hemorrhaging money. I mean, why wouldn't you have considered a lease that would have gone 9 months more? I mean, we're not getting that option to vote on that today, so I'm going to be in support of the 15-month option, but it seems strange that when we can save the county money and taxpayers money, that we didn't do that for just an additional 9 months. Could you address that?
well, as you know, I'm the acting director, and we're expecting Director Goodwin back in his office within a few short months, and I don't want to tie his hands as far as how he wants to move forward with the RFP for either a new building or changes to the existing building.
So the 15 months is what happens well, I'm looking at the report here. It goes to month until such time as it can be, and there is a slight 3% escalator clause in there. Should it go longer than 15 months, which is the end of June 30th, 2021. Also, if I'm not mistaken, the current month-to-month lease, which is now approaching $11,000 a month, is going to be retroactively lowered once this 15-month lease is extended to that amount. So there'll be a substantial savings there. The landlord didn't have to do that, but he's doing that because he's cognizant of the fact that he doesn't want to have the county spending money that we frankly don't have right now. So I'm looking to save the taxpayer as much money as possible during this period, and anything we can do to help that matter along, we're going to support. So thank you, Nola, for your input on this.
Thank you.
Any other comments from supervisors at this time, or questions for Noah? Okay, I would be looking for a motion, or looking for a motion to approve this proposed lease extension that is on the agenda, that is listed, and I would certainly support our acting director's position on the lease agreement.
Move
Mr.
to
Chairman,
Chairman,
Chair Howard,
Mr. Chairman,
Chair Hemmingson, to extend the lease for an additional 15 months, retroactive from April 1st, which will be an offer of credit there, and I'll make that motion at this time.
and I'll second.
Okay, I guess we got a couple of motions in a second.
Chair, yeah, could we clarify? Because I thought I heard Chris first, but it kind of got fumbled there. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, I heard Chris make the motion. I heard Berkowitz second, and then now I heard some other stuff from Supervisor Gitlin.
Other stuff. Thank you.
So can I get a clarity on that? Or does Chris make the motion or Supervisor?
Yeah, Supervisor Howard made the motion, and Supervisor Berkowitz seconded.
Thank you.
And will you please poll the vote?
Should we take public comment?
Yes. Any public comment?
Chair, I'm not seeing any.
But I kind of think we took public comment when we did the consent agenda public comment at the time, but we can do it again. That's fine. Seeing no public comment, then Kylie, would you please poll vote?
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes,
Supervisor Howard?
yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, moving on to general government. Item number 15. Approve and authorize the newly hired Deputy Sheriff 3 to be paid at a step D due to 12 years of previous law enforcement experience and possessing a post-advanced certificate. And then the second part of that is approve and authorize this to be retroactive to December 27th. Who's going to take this up? Jay, Sheriff, is anybody on?
Well, the item is put on by the sheriff. I don't see him on the list of being an attendee. Is there any questions on it? Yeah, it's his item, so.
I'd move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I certainly don't have a problem with increasing his step to a level D, but I am a little bit concerned as to the retroactive issue here, and I just wonder if does that create any problems with our auditor controller? Is our auditor controller on?
He's on.
Clint?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it can cause some problems. We're crossing calendar years. our W-2s already come out for last calendar year on wages earned. And this would then put us on wages earned last year, we've already reported on being paid this year. So it can complicate those issues. And, you know, I've only been here for 9 years, but I've never seen a retro pay like this before. And especially crossing these calendar years makes things, can make things complicated.
Yeah,
Chairman,
and
can we go forward with just one on 15-15-1 versus, and not two?
Someone could make that motion.
Make a motion that we approve item 15, number 1, but not number 2,
okay.
due to the
Yeah, and-
complications on calendar year.
Yeah, and I certainly am, supportive of the sheriff 100%, but I think, I think the issue of him waiting so long to make this request makes it difficult to go into that retroactive scenario. I agree with you, Supervisor Cowan.
Yeah, I could understand the complications for potentially doing that, but I'm sure the sheriff has his reasons for doing that also for maybe this deputy in his position and post. So I wish Sheriff was here and present to help argue this case, but I'm hoping that CAO Serena might have some additional detail on this, or Clint Shad.
I don't have any additional information than what's in the memo at this point. I am in agreement with the auditor controller. The retroactive pay is interesting, but I don't have any details as to why it's coming up now and wasn't done when he was brought in, as far as bringing him to that level. So I apologize, but I don't have any additional information.
Yeah, it's just the memo doesn't have a lot of detail in it, and I know we're very pro sheriff's department right now, so I wanted to. God, I wish we could postpone this until we heard a little bit more from the sheriff. I do wish he was on, because I suspect there's some background reason that we're not aware of for this retroactive pay.
Well, can this be postponed, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I think we can table it, but I do think we could also break it up to where we can at least approve this deputy being put to a step D right now as Supervisor Cowan, and then ask him to come back with the reasoning behind making it retroactive.
I'd be good with that. Yeah, I'd be good with that.
Does that sound like something that would work? Okay? Jay, did you hear me?
You broke up a little bit. I believe that's if you table the second part of that, you could bring it back.
Yeah, but I think we should, approve. Personally, I think we should approve the deputy to be moved to a step D.
Yes.
And I think motion and a second, a motion by Cowan and a second by Howard. Is that correct?
Yes, on the motion.
All right. Any public comment on this item?
Chair, I'm not seeing any. Can I clarify, please? So are
Sure.
we going with Lori's motion and then we're just saying on the second part tabling, or is Chris changing his original motion?
I'm changing my original motion to support Supervisor Cowan.
And then we will bring that, we'll have the sheriff bring that other item back with maybe a little more detail, please.
Okay, and
Sounds
do we
like a
have
good plan.
can we clarify the second then on that?
Yeah, Lori made the motion and Chris seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so would you poll the vote, please?
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes,
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes,
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Item number 16, approve and adopt the updated resolution establishing various parking regulations and penalties as requested by County Council. We've been going through these items last couple of meetings, and I think it's finally coming to fruition. County Council.
So I'll talk about all three of the items at the same time, 16, 17, and 18. And then I would request that we actually go in the reverse order, go 18, then 17, then 16.
Okay.
Because the resolution really kind of goes after the updated parking ordinance. So we have been talking about these. The ordinances were introduced at the last meeting. The resolution was also discussed at this time. Basically, we had an old resolution regarding parking regulations. Some of the specifics were moved to the resolution where it talked about specific streets or boat ramps parking. The resolution was kept more general. This came about because the board had requested that we enact that 72-hour parking ordinance on highways within the county to allow for vehicles parked over 72 hours to be towed. And that is in the vehicle code. The vehicle code, as I have told you before, is fairly restrictive. And so there's only a certain amount of things that we can really do within our ordinance. And again, a lot of it was updating because our ordinance was from the 1950s. And since then, we changed buildings, and a lot of the ordinance before was around who can park at the old building. And so a lot of that came out. The parking enforcement provisions are really prescribed by the vehicle code. So there were very minor changes made to the parking enforcement provisions, just updating days in order to be in compliance with the vehicle code, and really just kind of going over it to make sure that it was as streamlined as possible. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I think Rosanna is on too if you have any questions more specific to the resolution regarding parking in that area.
Okay, any questions from board members? Okay, so we are going to take up item number 18 first, as per County Council's recommendation. I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. That's Howard's motion and Supervisor Cowan's second. And any public comment?
I am not seeing any.
Okay, seeing no public comment, then we are going to move on to the vote. Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yep.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, now we'll take up item number 17. The council has already gone through those. I will ask for public comment. Kylie, anything?
I am not seeing anything.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Make a
Approve and
motion
adopt
to,
ordinance 817, updating and enacting parking enforcement provisions. Designate county council prepare a summary of the ordinance for publication.
Okay, I have a motion
second.
and a second. That's Gitlin making the motion and Cowan seconding. Any further discussion? Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 16. Any public comment on item number 16?
I am not seeing anything at this time.
Seeing no public comment, then I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve item number 16.
Second,
I have a motion by Supervisor Cowan, seconded by Supervisor Berkowitz. Kylie, would you please poll vote?
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
yes.
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 19, approve the final draft of the SEDS as requested by the County Administrative Officer, Mr. Serena.
So this document is the final of the comprehensive economic development strategy. I know that Supervisor Howard had some questions of the consultant. At this point, this document does not include some information, I believe, regarding agriculture. And I would defer to the supervisor if he would like to have this pulled until we can get that taken care of and bring it back.
I would appreciate that.
So we will take care of that. There were some comments made. They were that the version of this document that's posted is not the version that was corrected. So we will make sure we get that corrected document from the consultant, and we will bring that back at the next available meeting.
Okay, so with consensus, we will move that to the next available meeting when that information is taken care of. Okay, we're going to move on to budget transfers.
Make a motion to approve budget transfers 03-06 and 03-07.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Cowan and a second by Supervisor Howard to approve these two budget transfers. Any public comment?
I am not seeing any at this time.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 22. Discuss and give direction to staff to write a letter urging the Department of Fish and Wildlife to take proactive approach for the opening and closing of the Smith River during low flows as requested by the Del Norte County Local Fish and Game Commission.
I see Rob Miller's on, and I know he's on the commission. I'm hoping he can speak to this.
Rob, would you like to say anything about this?
He's got his hand up.
Does he?
Yep.
Bring him on.
Rob, you might want to unmute. There you go.
Might need to unmute yourself. There you go.
We got you.
Okay, yeah, the Fish and Game Commission had a meeting as somewhat listed in the letter that was submitted to you, and there was a considerable discussion about the change in the way that the state Fish and Wildlife Department were opening and closing during low flow. Many guides were present. Of course, Mike Koopman's on the commission, and they need to be aware of the fact that there is an easier system, which we suggested that it is in fact available. The river levels are available via the internet every morning. If they're above the 600 CFS, the river should be open. And if it's for the full day, and the next morning at 6 a.m., if the river is below the 600 CFS, it should be closed, not opening and closing in the middle of the day to help the economic stability of the guides and the river and the tourism in the county.
Thanks, Rob, for that clarification. And so I'm guessing that we want to write a letter in support of the Fish and Game Advisory Commission's position.
Rob, what are the regulations being considered that the Board of Supervisors comments and the comments of the Del Norte Fish and Game Commission meeting, when would that be discussed?
When will you guys discuss it, or us, or the commission?
The Fish and Game
Sorry?
Commission. Fish and Game
Oh,
Commission.
I don't even know that it is a Fish and Game Commission issue, Chris. I think it is a Eureka, potentially Fish and Game Office issue, probably. The directive for that probably doesn't come from the commission, probably comes from Sacramento or Redding, or I know the Eureka folks are the folks that I was told at the commission meeting are the folks that are opening and closing irregularly.
But the 600 CFS that's set in statute, correct? And annually approved during the commission meetings? It's just
I believe that is true, Chris. I don't know exactly, but yeah, there years ago that 600 it was changed from 400 to 600, and I'm assuming that was all done through the commission approval. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Jerry, I'd make a motion to direct staff to draft a letter in support of this concept that would get us out of the irregularity that we've experienced specific to the low flow closures.
Okay, great. I have a motion.
I'll second. I'll
I
second.
have a motion and a second. Any further public comment?
I am not seeing any at this time.
Okay, seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, would you poll this vote, please?
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 23, approve and authorize the chair to sign a letter to the United States Department of Transportation providing input into the selection of an essential air service carrier for Crescent City. As requested by the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority Director. Randy, are you on? If you're on and speaking, we don't.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Great. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for considering the letter that was transmitted from the airport authority. Basically what we're doing here is looking for support from the Board of Supervisors. We've also submitted a similar request for support to the Curry County Board of Commissioners, to the City of Crescent City, to the Elk Valley Rancheria, to the Tolowa-Dani Nation, and to our federal advocates in Congressman Huffman and DeFazio's offices. Basically all the members of the Joint Powers Authority. So to kind of summarize the request, basically in advance of our current grant, which is for alternate essential air services, which expires in September, the Department of Transportation issued a request ordering proposals for essential air services, the basic EAS program. In response to the proposal, one was received from Boutique Airlines. Boutique Airlines was the only airline to respond to the RFP from the Department of Transportation. And to be quite honest, it was a great little proposal. Boutique is a good carrier. I think the request from the Airport Authority Board of Commissioners has more to do with the existing relationship that we have with Contour. It's a great relationship that we want to continue to foster. But to summarize the Boutique proposal, they offered either a 24 or a 30 weekly round trip option to Portland International. Of course, we currently have direct service to Oakland International with Contour. Boutique was proposing either service via a PC-12 or a King Air 350 aircraft, which are both 8 or 9 seat turboprop aircrafts. And of course, we have 30 passenger commercial jet service currently with Contour. And so I think the airport authority preferred the service that we do have with a 30 seat jet versus the 8 seat turboprops. In the end, the Airport Authority Board did vote unanimously to reject the proposal from Boutique. And again, there were, I think, minor issues with the service that was proposed from Boutique, but in the end, it had more to do with the relationship that we have with Contour, which is a great relationship. So again, the request today would be support from for the decision of the Airport Authority. Ultimately, the decision on who the carrier would be rests with the Department of Transportation, and it's yet to see, exactly how that process will fully play out. But in the interim, we do want to make our voice heard in expressing our position that we do prefer this ongoing relationship with Contour. So if there's any questions on that, I'm certainly available.
Hey, Randy.
Question? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a statement. Certainly, yeah, I sit on the airport board and we're all in favor of Contour. They've done good by us the last few years. It's been a good relationship. After being to Washington, D.C. twice in the last couple of years, I was surprised that happened. But one thing that wasn't stated in that letter, I don't know if it's necessary, but I do want to state it publicly. One of the other reasons, for Boutique that was turned down in the first place before Contour and again now is a handicap accessibility also played a part in that. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, I definitely support this, and I'll make a motion to send the letter off.
Thank you, Supervisor Count. Any other questions from board members to Randy or comments?
Randy, a quick question. Based on the tickets that emanate here in Crescent City for ultimate destination, what percentage of does the traveler travel to the southern part of the state as compared with going up in the Northwest, Seattle, Portland? Are you able to determine those numbers?
Not really precisely. We know there was about 17,000 passengers that were created through the Contour service last year, in combining enplanements and deplanements. But as far as the origin and destination statistics and the breakdown, we have a basic idea, but it isn't precise enough to tell you today.
I mean, is there a market that flies from Crescent City that flies down to Oakland and then transfers up to Portland or Seattle? Does that exist, or do they make other arrangements and go to Medford? Can you address that?
Yeah, well, I'm sure the market does exist, but in terms of the data to bear out, what portion of the market that may be, that would be through the Department of Transportation's T100 statistical database. But I just don't have those statistics available for you today.
And
So we'll go and second Supervisor Cowan's motion.
I'd like to ask Randy some questions, Chairman. Randy and Chairman Hemmingson and Supervisor Cowan, please feel free to weigh in on this. In reviewing the letter that we're going to send to Mr. Raggio, my concern is that we don't offer a lot of detail in there, other than we're happy with our service with Contour Airlines. You've said some things that are a little bit more specific to the reasons why the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority selected Contour over the two Boutique proposals. Is it worth us adding any of that detail into this letter at this time from the board's perspective, or is that material come at a later date?
Well, that's a good question, Chris. So basically the way the process plays out is what the Department of Transportation is looking for is a representative comment from the community. And what's happened with the formation of the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority is that responsibility has been delegated to the Board of Commissioners on the Airport Authority. And so the members of the Joint Powers Authority that constitute the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority, that, again, Delaware County, City of Crescent City, Curry, they would be supporting the recommendation from the community, which is going to be formed through the letter from the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority. The letter from the Airport Authority is going to be presented at the public hearing in May to the Airport Authority Board of Commissioners. I expect it's going to have a high level of detail and analysis. Again, the request from the Board of Supervisors today is simply to support the recommendation that's been put forward by the Airport Authority's Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Randy.
Great. Okay, so I have a motion by Supervisor Cowan and a second by Supervisor Berkowitz. Is there any public comment?
I am not seeing any at this time.
Okay, seeing no public comment, then bring it back to the board. Any further discussion or comments from board members? Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes,
Supervisor Cowan, Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
and Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Thank you. We are going to go back into closed session. So I will ask for any public comment on closed session items.
Okay, Chair, before we close out, we're going to try to use the previous link. I'm told that it might work. If it doesn't, it's going to be probably 5 to 10 minutes to set a new one up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. All right.
Get an email if that doesn't happen.
No report out from closed session, so there should be nothing to report, but we are going back into closed session.
And Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment on closed session.
Thank you very much. And with that, our public meeting is adjourned. We are going on to closed session.